Welcome back to Text Transformation with Red. What we are going to do today, well, actually, before we do that, we're just going to do a quick recap of what we did last time. So last time we did the parsing rules for matching a pattern for numbered headings. And if you'll recall, uh, numbered headings start with one or many pound signs followed by a title and then a new line. And as a recap of what we're trying to do is the objective here is to create a data structure, a block of data, which will contain a combination of words and strings. The intention being that, as I mentioned previously, in the red programming language, there's no difference between code and data. Both are exactly the same and both are expressed in the same way. So although here I'm referring to this as a block of data, it is actually also code, and as it is code, it can also be executed. In this example here, we will eventually have a function called h1, which takes one parameter and applies some kind of transformation to the input, and the same for h2. And then at the end of the entire parsing process, essentially call a command that will execute this code to generate for us the desired target output. In this case, we're just going to be looking at the simplest use case, which is HTML. It's pretty straightforward to generate, but later on we can see how we can use this exact same code to generate other output formats, whether it be LaTeX, whether it be XML, it really doesn't matter. All right, so let's start looking at the rules for today. So we'll be working on unnumbered headings, and the syntax we'll be using is very similar to the one we used last time for numbered headings. The only difference will be the character that we'll be using to identify that pattern. So a level 1 unnumbered heading will make the pattern start with an equal sign. For a level 2 unnumbered heading, 2 of them, and for level 3, 3 of them. Pretty straightforward. And we already have the code we worked out for in the previous lesson that we can use as a template to follow. So let's go ahead and do that. So down here is the main parse function. We're passing it this string, and then we are asking it to look for patterns. In this case, we already have one pattern defined, which we defined last time, which is numbered headings. Now, the way parse works is it goes sequentially, roughly speaking, it goes sequentially through a list of rules, one after the other. So the way that parse would work here is it's going to look for a numbered heading, and then we're going to tell it, well, if you don't find a numbered heading, try this alternative here. Try to follow this other rule for an unnumbered heading. And now we will describe what an unnumbered heading looks like, or the pattern for an unnumbered heading. Looking at our input, what is the pattern? Well, I can see that there's going to be some equal sign followed by some space, and there's going to be a title right up to the new line. Now I have to remember that to tell it that once you hit that new line, just keep going through past the new line, and the result of that is that it'll parse all of this, get to the new line, skip it, which will then bring us to the beginning of the next line of input. And then because we have any here, this essentially means try to match this pattern as many times as possible. It'll just ideally just go to the next line, match the pattern, go to the next line, match the pattern, and etc. So let's see what that gives us. We will load up our red interpreter. We will load and execute our file, our program. So we know what this is. We ran into the same error last time. Invalid parse rule or usage of rule, and it's referring to title. And that makes sense because there's no definition for what a title is, and that's what it's expecting. It says I can't find any definition of the pattern for title. So we have to give it a bit more information. So like last time, we're going to introduce this word copy. And again, the way that copy works is that it says it looks at the rules following whatever we specify after copy. So it says the way you can read this is copy right up to the new line, copy whatever you find up to the new line and stick it into this variable called title. So let's try that. We'll save it first. All right. So I see here that parse returns an empty block. So it's not generating. This is what this is what we're expecting, but this is not what we're getting. So we'll have to see why that is. So, well, it's basically, if you recall how to put stuff in a block, is that we always have to use collect in combination with the word keep. So if you look back at the rules that we put for numbered heading, we're telling it, all right, stick some stuff in some variables, and then stick it into the block that collect will be creating. And the way we do that is with the keep word. So we're going to follow that same pattern. We're going to do this. So we're going to say keep title. Now let's see what happens. All right. So that's good. At least we're making progress. Now we're missing the other piece. So we need this. We also need this this word before the string, before the title. So let's look at how we did this last time. So we know that we will be relying on how many equal signs there are in order to identify what level of heading this is. So if there's one equal sign, it would be a level 1 heading, 2 equal signs, a level 2 heading, and 3 a level 3 heading. So let's do that. But before we can do that, we have a piece missing here. If we look at the rule we created last time, is that we need to copy those equal signs into a variable. So we'll do that. Copy level. And again, the way you can read this is copy some equal signs into the variable level. And now we can do this. Keep level. So now what I will be expecting is this, and then unnumbered heading, heading 1, and then I'll have 2 of these, and then a numbered heading 2, etc. This is what I'm expecting, because at this point we're not doing anything with whatever with the equal signs that we're copying into level. We're just incrementally adding rules, making sure we understand what's going on, making sure we knowing what we're expecting, and then applying some code to see how we can get to that expectation, how we can meet that expectation. So this is right on. This is what I was expecting. Now, ideally, what I would like is something like this, H1, and to differentiate between a numbered and unnumbered heading in our executable syntax tree, I'm going to add an asterisk there. This is a completely valid variable name or word in Red, unlike many other programming languages where you're kind of stuck with a combination of letters and numbers and maybe some underscores. Red is much more liberal and flexible in the characters that it allows. It has very few reserved function names or words. And even those that do exist, you can typically give it a new meaning. So if there's for example, if in the core Red interpreter there's a function called, I don't know, add, and adds two numbers, well, you can redefine that function pretty easily by just creating a new definition for that function and assigning it to the word add. That's not a problem at all. So I'll just keep going here. And then for the level 2, this is what I would be hoping to get. Well, we'll just, and then for H3, etc. So this is what I'd like to create. So we'll just look at what we did last time. So right now we're looking at unnumbered heading, and when we're keeping the level or we're copying a bunch of equal signs, sticking it into the variable level, and then we're adding that to the block that collect is creating for us. But right now it's still a string, so it's just a bunch of equal signs because that's what we told it to put in there. So if you want something different, we have to tell it exactly what we want. So what we want, ideally, is to append to the level H, append to the letter H, the length of the string of level, and that essentially will give us how many equal signs we have in that string. So let's give that a try. Well, actually, we can just do this now. Is after we do that, we're going to tell it to then append an asterisk. So let's give that a try. Look at that. Easy. Now, the only issue now is that this is still a string. So if we want something else, if we want an actual word or variable or label, we have to tell it specifically to convert this to a word. So we will do that here. And we'll just run through this code here to understand a little bit more what's going on. So rejoin, if you remember, is a function in Red. You pass it a block of things, block of data, and what it does is that it first reduces or evaluates any code that's in here. So in this case, we have some code in here, which is length of level. So it'll do that evaluation first, return us a number, and then do the second part, which is join that. So we'll get H and then a number and then an asterisk. And then pass that into the function toWord, which will create a label for us, or a word in the red terminology. And my friends, I think this is all we need to get where we're trying to get to. Let's give that a try. Look at that. That's beautiful. Now let's mix and match here. So we have a previous rule for the numbered heading. So let's stress let's stress the system a little bit. Let's see. So we'll have a number level 1 heading numbered. And then we'll have a level 1 unnumbered. And then we'll have a level 2 unnumbered. And then we'll just do a level 3 numbered. All right. So if all goes well, if we did this right, what we should get here after running parse is something like this. H1 numbered, and then we will have H1 star unnumbered, and then H2 star unnumbered, etc. The last one should be H3 and then numbered. So let's see. Let's see if all the pieces work together. Look at that. Beautiful. See how effortless it is to parse text and transform it into something else. And in our case, even more incredible is that we are taking some text and transforming it into a program, which we can then execute. How mind-blowing is that? Now, what else can we do here? I think this pretty much covers today's lesson. Tomorrow, or sorry, in the next lesson, what we will do is we will be looking at another rule. I'll think a little bit about what we'll be working on. There's a few options there that we can do, because if you remember, some of the other things that we'll have are images, we'll have figures, we'll have I don't know, maybe block quotes. So let me think about it, and stay tuned for the next lesson, where we will be doing a bit more parsing, learning a bit more, and making lots of progress. See you next time.